Welcome back, everybody, to Elite Start Training, and welcome back to our track awareness module within our basic search operations course. And in this next video, we will take a look at whenever we find a track, what do we need to do with it? We'll first start with understanding what information can be derived from a track or a series of track, and how we can start to look for sign using the tracking stick. Whenever we're cutting for sign, we're trying to locate a series of tracks that can indicate a direction of travel, or DOT. Whenever we say DOT, we're looking at least 3 consecutive tracks in a row. If we have 3 consecutive tracks, we can definitively say that that's the direction of travel. Now, you can also indicate a direction of travel off of a single track, but that's more of an advanced topic in man tracking at the awareness level. If you can find at least 3, we can get a solid direction of travel off of that. But how we can find, if we find an initial track and we are maybe potentially struggling to find the second track, we can deploy the use of a tracking stick to help us find that next track in sequence. And again, we need that 3 to get us a direction of travel. But the tracking stick is a tool that we can use to help us find the next track in sequence. And you can see on a couple pictures here, we have the tracking stick, but I'm actually going to kick back over to my camera and show you the tracking stick here. So the tracking stick, it can be just about any kind of object that is about, at least 3 feet in length or so, 3.5, maybe 4 feet in length, something that's relatively straight, something that, it's going to be easily portable for us. And then it could be something like this, which is just like a driveway marker is what this is. But it can be your walking stick. It could be a switch that you cut off of a tree. I've seen some tracking sticks that have been rigged up from replacement tent poles, and they've been cut down and in a way where they're collapsible, so that way you can easily stow them away in their pack. Your tape measure, if you bring a tape measure with you, that could be a tracking stick for you as well. But the idea is it's got some length to it. It's easy to port around, and it's something that is relatively straight for us to use as a tool for us. So how it works is, I'll show you guys this right here. I'll kind of scoot everything up here towards the tip of the stick here. All right. So on this tracking stick, I have 2 different markers here on my tracking stick. You can rig some up with a third, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. On this one, I've only got 2, and as you can see, these are just hair ties. I've also seen where people use like O-rings, but I have a bunch of girls around my house, so I've always got a hair tie available. So these are just hair ties for us on this. And on the back end here, I've got tape, and I've got some electrical tape with different colors. And the reason why I have this is for training. It's okay to use something like this in training, just so that way it's easy to move around. You can adjust. You can do different things in training. But during a real search, you want something that doesn't move. Okay, that's where the tape comes in. This right here, it's going to slide up and down. But if we get into a search, you're going to want something that doesn't move. So I'll teach you guys the 2 indicator stick here, and then I'll tell you guys about the third indicator and what it can be used for there. So with the point, we'll start at the pointed end, and we'll go down to the first indicator. So with the first indicator, what you want to do is, whenever you find a track, you want to move the edge of the indicator, your tape or your O-ring or whatever. You want to back that up to the heel of the track. Back that up to the heel of the track, and the tip of your tracking stick should be at the toe. And what this is going to give you is this is going to give you your track length. Okay, this is going to give you your track length here. So that way, whenever you come across other tracks, you can lay this down and you can give yourself a good approximation of whether or not that's the same size track as to what you have been following. This method is not as precise as using a tape measure and recording those measurements, those of you that want to graduate on to becoming a man tracker, that's something that we will introduce at that level of really getting down into the details of and measurements and the importance of really logging that information as you're going along. At the awareness level, we're just looking at the approximate. We're just going to look at the approximate that's about the length of the track we're looking for. We have a good impression. We can get a good track length here. So for the second one, what we want to do is, for the second one, we get ourselves we find two tracks. We find two tracks that belong to our victim. We move this one down to where it's on the heel of our first track. And I'll kind of go back to the video here, the screen here real quick, and that's what we have represented here. You have the heel of this track is marked by this indicator, and then now the end of the stick is right on the heel of the next track in sequence. Okay? So with this indicator, where's my mouse? With this indicator, we back this up onto the heel of our first track, and now we're using this point, the point on our stick, to point to the heel of the next track. And now we're going opposite feet with this one. If you have a third indicator, you can do the same foot. So we're going from what's known as a step measurement on the second one here. And if you have a third down here at the bottom, you can go for a stride, a full stride. So the same two of the same foot is what we're looking for there. But what we're doing is whenever we lay this tracking stick down, we put it on the heel. We put it on the heel of our track. We're moving this stick back and forth. And eventually, at the end of the stick, we're going to start seeing the disturbance related to the next track. That's the idea of the tracking stick, is it focuses your eye and focuses your attention to the end of the stick, so that way you can pick up that next track. This is an incredibly useful tool, and we'll do future videos down the road on showing this live and in person. But if you're out there and you have a good, easy track to find, and you're going track to track, step to step is our method of tracking. If you're going step to step and you're having difficulty finding the next step in sequence, you can lay the tracking stick down, and you have it good and marked out to where you have an idea of where that next step is going to be. Okay, we're going to move that back and forth. Gives us that indication. So this next slide here, it tells us exactly how we need to sweep. All right, whenever we're sweeping for the next track, the area immediately in front of the last known track is considered the primary spore area, the primary sign area. That's this guy here. Okay, anything within this little triangle, this sweep, we're looking at about a 60-degree. Man, I'll tell you what, I cannot write for anything on here. We're looking at about a 60-degree sweep off of that track, okay? So that's considered our primary spore area, or our primary sign area. Off to the sides, where someone may have potentially made a turn, we have our secondary sign areas. Our secondary spore area, secondary sign area will be off to either the immediate right or the immediate left of that last known track right here, off of that last known track. So primary is out ahead, off to, with a 60-degree angle there, and then the secondary sign area is off to the side of that, in case they made a turn on us. Beyond the primary sign area is the extended sign area. This is where the tracker can predict some of that movement based off of terrain and vegetation, roughly 3 or 4 theoretical steps in front of that primary spore area. Okay, so if you have the ability to look out ahead to see where something may be funneling, to see where something may be pushing a victim towards, you still want to stay back here on this track, but you can look out ahead and start to predict some of that movement up here in the extended sign area. We still don't want to jump up to here until we can make the linkage between here and there. We want to be able to make that linkage between here and there before we make that jump. But it gives us our eyes out looking ahead on where that sign may be. Okay? And then after we identify those 3 consecutive tracks, we can take a bearing using a compass, which goes back to the last module of land navigation. I talked about why it's important to be able to learn how to use a compass. This is one of the examples that I cited there. We find 3 consecutive tracks. We can take a bearing off of that and determine that direction of travel. And this is something that should be communicated back, so that way we can start to refocus our resources out ahead in the search area and start bringing it close to the search. But this is how we use the tracking stick as an offensive tool for us while we're out there tracking. Okay, very short module here as well, but that brings us to the end of this video on direction of travel and the tracking stick. So in the next video, we'll continue the series on what do we do whenever we find a track. So we're talking about marking and drawing sketches of the track in the next video. So thank you for watching.